Welcome to Phonogenics 101, a Riotboy production hosted by Jeremy Gloff. The podcast where people who love music discuss albums track by track. Please hit subscribe, and if you'd like to support this podcast, patreon.com/Jeremy Gloff or Venmo @Jeremy Gloff. And now, on to the music.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Phonogenics 101. I am here with some of the loveliest people I've ever met in my life. What a pleasure it just was to get to know all of you guys. And I'm so glad that Joni Mitchell is releasing her archive series, because not only are we getting new Joni Mitchell music, but it also gives us a reason to get back together and discuss these releases on Phonogenics 101. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so anyone that's watching this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks to the people that support me on Patreon. And Chris brought up a point. We really stick to the music with this podcast, but we are recording this on February 4th, 2025, and the last time we met was in early November, late October, to talk about the LA concert. So Chris did make mention how different the world is right now, and I feel like I'm here with a group of people that we all grew up probably in different situations that may have been difficult, and music was always an escape for us, and it was always a place to feel safe and to feel intelligent and to find your tribe. So these Joni Mitchell songs at this time in our lives are necessary, and these friendships are necessary because no matter what side you fall on or what you believe, really, you have to have love in music at the end of the day, and I feel that with you guys, so I thank you for it very much. All right. So, Joni Mitchell, Archives 4. When the Archive series was announced, we listened to the folk songs. We listened to 12 versions of Sisso Tobel Lane. No, I'm just kidding. Isn't that somebody's favorite song of all time? Joni Mitchell?
Yeah.
Somebody, I don't know who it was.
Somebody, sure.
Great song.
Yeah, it is a great song. Our podcast really, really hit its stride, I feel like, when we got to For the Roses, when the running time went from 2 hours to 10. But I think all of us really were anticipating this set that covered 76 through 1980. Anyone that's watching this podcast already knows how legendary that is in the Joni Mitchell universe. But Bob, I'm gonna go a little bit off track. You were never one to freak out too much about the archives, but tell that story again about your Spotify.
All right. So, on Spotify, of course, does a roll up in December where it looks at what your most popular artist was, what you played the most, what genre you played the most. And when I did my roll up in December, I was very surprised because typically I build a playlist based on albums that came out that year. I'll make a 2024 playlist, and I hear an album I like, I throw it in the playlist. And if I go to the gym, if I'm out for a walk, if I'm in my car, that's the playlist I'm listening to. I'm listening to all brand new music. So this archives volume came out in October. I listened to it so many times that at the end of the year, when my roll up was announced to me, my favorite artist was Joni Mitchell. And I didn't listen to any of her other records. I probably played her Shira once or twice, but and I've got some of those songs on my liked songs playlist, which is my go-to for a lot of times. But this archives was so powerful and so good that I played it over and over and over again. And each time, even today on the way home from we did a 5K walk with some friends of mine on Tuesday night, and coming home, every single play gives me something new that I didn't hear the first 10 times that I heard it. It's always unveiling colors and instruments and words. And so many of these songs are early versions where she's playing with lyrics. She's got different lyrics. In the case of the one Rolling Thunder song, where they do Black Crow, they just learned it before they did the show, and Mick Ronson is tearing it up on guitar. It's a rockin' version. We'll get there. But she was, for me, in her prime, 76 to 80, unbelievable creativity, popularity be damned. And I was in college. This was my heart and soul, and probably always will be.
Well, my experience with this is two hurricanes hit Florida, and the second was Hurricane Milton, and it the eye wall of the hurricane went right over my apartment. Like, my windows were completely closed, but there was so much wind going through the cracks of the windows that my curtains were blowing, and you could hear like the wind swirling above the roof. But the next day, I mean, a tree went right down through an apartment across the street from me, like boom, right, just cut right through the middle of it. Thank goodness those people weren't home. But when I woke up, I said, all I want to do is eat a fucking Big Mac. I know that sounds stupid, but I said, all I want to do is just sit alone in a McDonald's. So I'm going to get in my car and drive north until I hit the first McDonald's that's open, because eventually you're out of the line of the storm. So I drove and I listened to the Hijira demos, and I'll never forget, like, the sky was very autumn the day after the hurricane, and there was just an eeriness in the air, and all the yards were just flooded. I was going through, like, by a lot of trailer parks where the water was up to the doorway, and I'll just never forget that ride, listening to those demos and being on that highway. All the other traffic was coming into Tampa because there's people that had fled the storm, and I was one of the only people, like, leaving the city. But I finally found the McDonald's about an hour and a half north in Ocala, and just sat there, and that's when the chicken Big Mac was out, and I just sat there and ate it by myself, and there was a weird, almost celebratory kind of feel amongst everyone in McDonald's. I don't know if it was tourists or people escaping the storm, but it was a weird, almost celebration kind of feel. It's just a day I'll never forget. So Joni's music is kind of our companion through a lot of life's experiences, and especially we'll get to it, but the Amelia demo just really, like, whoo, I'll always have that, like, place in my heart for it. I was gonna say one more thing, but I can't remember. Does anyone else want to tell? Oh, little did I know that there'd be a gas shortage in Florida, and I burned through my fucking tank of gas driving to a McDonald's in Ocala. So my friends had to come rescue me 2 days later with a gas can. So, well, you win some, you lose some. Does anyone else have a story they want to share?
What did you do for the 2 days?
I just stayed in my neighborhood. Like, luckily, people brought me. I had food down the street, so it was something. Does anyone else have a story they want to share about when this collection came into their being soon?
Well, I had this incredible experience starting in October when I was on tour with Lauren and the Good Souls, and I got my version of Archives 4, but I was so busy for like 2 months that I didn't even open it, and I listened to parts of it on my Apple Music on my phone, but I never really sat down and listened to the whole thing until like yesterday. I mean, it sounds ridiculous for a person like me who, like, has been breathing Joni Mitchell for the last 45 years to have waited so long to listen to this amazing, amazing collection of music. But as soon as I started listening to it, to prepare for the podcast, I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? It's like, I just get so distracted with all these different things. And about the time that the Archive 4 came out, Les wrote me and said, we need a transcription of the acoustic Shadows and Light. So this weekend I looked at the ones that were there, and our old tab person, Mark Damianchich, who I haven't talked to in a really long time, did a tab of Shadows and Light from the 1976 tour. He must have had a tape.
Well, it was on the last waltz, wasn't it? The deluxe edition.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
the deluxe edition. Yeah, but they just got released recently when this hadn't been out there a long time.
Yeah, so it was fine. I mean, the tab is really good. So I don't think I'm going to put up another one, but I will put up a video on his thing of that version. I mean, I love all the Hissing of Summer Long songs that are on here that are acoustic. It's just so incredible. And with the band. And of course, the Hejira demos, they're different from the Hejira demos we had on tape many years ago, right, Bob?
We never had Azura demos on tape.
Oh, not
We had
Hejira. Yeah, I'm thinking
hissing demos.
Hissing, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But these demos of Hejira are just mind-bending. They're just so... And her guitar style, again, amazes me so much. I just incredibly love it. So I feel bad that I was late to the game listening to it, but I'm here, so...
Well, I feel like music finds us when it's supposed to, so
Yeah.
there's never a right or wrong time. Does anybody else have a story they want to share? We're not going to go song by song. We're going to go section by section. Because otherwise it'll be like a 20-hour podcast. I'd love to spend 20 hours with you guys, but I'm a tired bitch lately. Today's my triple. I worked from 7 to 4, then I went and volunteered at an agency for a couple hours and ate really quick and got home for the podcast. So I'm going to try to keep it going. Any other thoughts? The cover is beautiful, of course. This beautiful cover.
It's a great package. I mean, the book, the photographs in this book are all, for me, they were almost all brand new. The interview with Cameron Crowe is extremely enlightening and knowledgeable. And anytime I can read something about Joni that I don't know, that's, a pretty good stretch. And the thing is, it's very specific to the recordings on this set.
Right.
So it's amazing packaging. I don't think I've ever played the CDs. I just stream it. But I had to have the package for the interview, for the photographs. I mean, I had to have it. I've got all 4 of them.
Now, that picture on the cover is from that book, though, right? California Rock, California Sound, or whatever, where she has all the pictures from when she went to visit George O'Keeffe. Does anybody else have that book? Oh, shit. That's a must-have. When we take a little break, I'll grab it. In fact, does anybody want to tell a story? Because I'll go look for the book. Does anyone else have a story about getting the archives for?
I still don't have it. I just stream it.
Oh, can you kick somebody off the call, Jeremy?
No.
I do have a PDF of the insert though.
Talk amongst yourselves for a minute. I know you guys can.
I haven't read the interview yet. I'm ashamed to say.
Great.
Is there a question we're supposed to be looking up in the booklet if we have it, or I'm sorry, I skitzed out for a moment. I haven't read any of these booklets. I'm sure they are full of information. Bob,
pretty fabulous.
Bob,
I'm just showing the listening audience the photos.
What was the piece of information that you did not previously know?
Oh, I couldn't tell you specifically, but I mean, she's talking. Well, for instance, she talks for a whole question answer about the piece called Safe Magic, that she walked into the studio and was just going to sit down at the piano and squirrel around on it. And Henry Louis knew that this was something he needed to record. So he hits the record in the control room and writes on the box where the reel-to-reel goes and writes Save Magic. I mean, in other words, this is Joni creating at the piano spontaneously. It's magic. We're going to save it. And she talks about that. She says, that's Henry, And she talks about Henry Louis. She talks specifically about some of the players, in some of the Mingus recordings that are on this collection. She said were better than the ones that got released on the album. There are some differences, but
I think I had read that snippet, and there was there's been a little bit of a distillation of some of the interview on some of the promo that was. Sam was sharing them quite often when they would come out, and I remember reading that as part of one of the snippets. That was very, very illuminating. Yes,
but the interview is great. Of course, Cameron Crowe was Rolling Stone, who she had some bones to pick with, but never with Cameron Crowe. He always got her, and she appreciated their relationship, and so she opens up with him. She's very comfortable. She speaks freely and openly about these recordings and what's going on in her life. And it just makes me hanker for what's next. Fingers crossed. Let's get into these 80s albums next.
Hell yeah.
That's
hell yeah. Okay. This book is called California Rock, California Sound. And there's a big, this is Joni doing the Don Juan painting. And then there's the one where she's in the desert. So it's
Right.
there's a really nice few pages of Joni and then Neil Young, and I feel like some of those pictures are from there. All right, Archives 4. Joni Mitchell's on the Rolling Thunder Review Tour with Bob Dylan. Would you imagine that everyone watching this knows the story of the tour, or should we just do like a little quick synopsis? I mean, Joni just kind of, Bob said come along, and she just kind of did, right? Does anyone want to add anything about Rolling Thunder?
Well, she shows up when it's already been underway for a while, so she kind of hops on for a while and then hops off. You know, so
Allegedly, there was a lot of the white lady around at the time.
yeah.
She called it joining the circus.
Joining the circus.
And Sam Shepard.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
when she met Sam and wrote those songs.
Mm.
And a lot of, of course, I was at the time when after I joined the list and I was trading and getting what I could, a lot of this Rolling Thunder stuff was in circulation among traders. So I got a lot of these shows. Joni's would be like 3-4 songs at the most. And the one thing they didn't put in this archives, but that's fine, was the finale was always This Land Is Your Land, where they'd all take a verse and sing the finale and whatnot and carry on and stuff. But she did a lot. I mean, she was writing songs and bringing them out for the first time and previewing them. And, this period of time, Joni was excited about what she was doing. And we'll see this as we get on with the discussion. She didn't want to play both sides now and her stuff from way back when. It was all about, what am I doing right now? This is exciting me right now.
Chris.
There's so many people on this tour who were so good with words. It's extraordinary. Ginsberg and Dylan and Mitchell and Fury. I mean, there's so many great songwriters are in one place. How did they possibly not sort of cross-pollinate to a greater extent? I mean, one could think after that it was a lot about competition, that there was something happening among the group that was kind of dynamically was a little weird. I mean, that's kind of where I net out on that whole thing, whether or not it was the presence of that much drugs, the pressure of the schedule, the Dylan being as aloof as he was, whether or not that was maybe only Joni's situation, take on it, or whether or not the other artists also felt that same way. I don't know. There was a film being shot all along the way. I mean, it was a circus. There was a lot going on.
Bob.
Yeah, I think, Martin Scorsese, I think, did the documentary on the Rolling Thunder tour. I watched it maybe a year, 2 years ago, and it's definitely worth a watch. It was a crazy show. Dylan plays venues that are totally unexpected. He doesn't play the regular arenas and concert halls. He'll show up at a high school gym, and then next thing he's at a minor league baseball park. I mean, Dylan's Dylan, and he's bizarre. So they showed up at all sorts of crazy venues to do this Rolling Thunder tour. And they'd pick up locals along the way, jugglers and poets and different talented things. And it was a real, like Sue said, a real circus. But the documentary is definitely worthwhile. It's out there somewhere.
It's actually a mockumentary. It's there's so much made up stuff in there, just like the recent Dylan film. That's like, stuff that didn't happen, people that weren't there. But it's on Netflix if you wanted to look at it. But the scene with Joni playing Coyote at Gordon Lightfoot's house is fantastic. That's
right.
That's an amazing scene. You can just see all the guys kind of like their jaws are dropping.
I mean, I think we can arguably say this is some of Joni Mitchell's best songwriting, and I think there's nothing better than some friendly competition. I mean, she was touring around with the best wordsmiths in the world, and she's like, okay, let me show you how it's done. and she rides with, she comes out of it with the best batch of songs she ever wrote, arguably, unless you consider Chalkmark a masterpiece like I do. But
I think that I think Gordon Lightfoot is one of the greatest songwriters ever, and he was amazed at what she was doing, that wasn't the first time that he sat with her and listened to her songs. He was on some of those. What was that guy's name? Shay from
Gene Shockey.
Shockey, yeah, and Gordon was there, and she would play something like, we talked about it before, Si Sotto Lane. And he's
Gene
like,
Shea and Ed Shockey.
what are you doing there? What the heck? How are you doing that?
I mean, you think if
It's just so amazing.
if 76 to 80 never happened in Joni Mitchell's career, and she left us with maybe Hissing or even Court and Spark, just think how different her legacy would be. Like, she was already amazing, all three, but she really just leveled up with these albums here, and
sure.
they're unmatched. Like, whoever will match this work here.
I mean, the range of her poetry, everything that she wrote between that, going on the road to, the end of Don Juan's Reckless Daughter, all those songs are just so, so amazing, and some of them are really weird, but it's like she plays Jungle Line on this set, not at the Rolling Thunder, but later on.
Oh, yeah, on the 76
fantastic.
tour.
Yeah, and it sounded great. And I'm like, wow, that takes balls,
Yeah.
Does anybody know?
Can't wait to get to that one. Can't wait to get to that
I know,
one.
that was fantastic.
Does anybody know if is the Rolling Thunder review concert dates complete on JoniMitchell.com?
I'm sure Simon has that all annotated. It's pretty well documented.
Really, because I saw the Rolling Thunder review in Houston when I was in college in Lafayette. We went with some friends and hitchhiked to Houston to go see the show. I swear that she was there. Ready for me to move?
You want to stay here?
Yeah, I'll go over there. Yeah, sorry, I'm being edited.
Yeah.
Normally I'd be sitting in my office, but I have some sort of pinched nerve thing.
Oh.
That's happening, and I can't sit in my computer chair for very long. Anyways, but I swear that she was there, but it must be that I was on some sort of mind-altering substance at the time, or not enough, one or the other.
Oh, all right. Well, we have 6 discs to get through. Here we go. Joni Mitchell Archives 4. We start off with a batch of songs. Let's do the first 6 songs here. We have Jericho live in Niagara Falls. I don't know what the hell music venue there is in Niagara Falls. That's where I grew up. Then we're at the Harvard Square Theater. We have Edith and the Kingpin, Don't Interrupt the Sorrow. Then we have a version of Harry's House. Does anybody have anything to say about this little section here? Sue.
Yeah, it's like she plays Don't Interrupt the Sorrow several times on this archive set, and it's like one of my favorite songs. And she played that and Harry's House. I mean, there was something about the guitar playing in those couple of songs, and Jericho too. I mean, those are like my 3 favorite songs to play. I mean, they're just so beautiful. And I thought that the Don't Interrupt the Sorrow with the band behind her was really great. I mean, I'm going to sound stupid this whole show because, it's like everything is fantastic.
It is, though. It is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I listened to her guitar playing very closely and, her finger picking. And it's just so weird because it's like, what you don't hear on the albums, you hear her doing on these live sets, because usually with the albums, there's the band behind hers, the guitar, you can hear the guitar, but you can't hear some of the really great pops and finger picking that she does on all these songs, and it's just so incredibly beautiful. But I really liked these versions on at the Rolling Thunder Review, and she had a bunch of cool people behind her here. T-Bone Burnett, on Interrupt the Sorrow, and Mick Ronson. That's pretty cool. And so
yeah, track 7, the one that was recorded in Bangor, Maine. It seems like
right.
It seems like it's in somebody's living room.
I know,
because she's playing A Case of You, and they start talking about Canada Dry ginger ale.
Yeah, right.
And I could drink a case of you, Canada Dry. Then somebody else says, well, yeah, Werner's ginger ale is better. And I was hoping Michael will be here because Werner's ginger ale, if you're from Detroit, that's a Detroit thing. And Werner's ginger ale is the best ginger ale that's ever been made.
Amen, brother.
We had that in Buffalo too. All right, we got Jack then Chris.
To be honest, I was like extremely disappointed when I played disc 1. It's like, what the hell is this? We've already had volume 3. You know, this is all shit that she's really kind of already covered in the archives. And I didn't think the sound quality on a bunch of the songs was really very good. I was like, why is this even here? So my first reaction to the archive, that I've been waiting for since this series has been announced, was like, what the fuck?
I felt a little bit of that too when I heard the first disc the first time. And then when I got more into it, it was like, oh my God.
She was just warming us up. Chris.
I agree completely, Jack. I think that these early songs, I think they don't sound good at all. It's like they weren't even trying to mix her well at all. I think the band sounds really flat underneath her. The sound quality is poor. It wasn't until I didn't even look up to notice anything until we were at Gordon Lightfoot's house and she was singing "Woman of Heart and Mind" just solo. It was so refreshing to hear her close up and intimate. It suddenly it made sense. I don't know. I wouldn't miss if she decided to just, give a big fuck you to Rolling Thunder and have not included any of it.
Yeah.
Most of this stuff was circulating. I have a folder in my hard drive with all just Joni Mitchell performances from Rolling Thunder. So except for the Gordon Lightfoot thing, there was nothing that was a big surprise for me. Oh, Case of You was a surprise. I don't think I'd heard that.
Right.
But and the sound quality, is just about like it is on the bootleg copies. So what y'all are saying is true, I think.
I also wasn't.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Case of You to me sounds like it's in a dressing room or backstage or something.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and let's move on to Case of You and Woman of Heart or Mind. Now, I thought it was weird to hear Case of You in Joni Mitchell's 1976 voice. Like her voice had started to take some different shades here. I definitely feel like she wasn't thrilled to sing it like she was Coyote. You know what I mean? Like they're almost like you said, like just laughing through the song. It was kind of like just an off the cuff something done in the dressing room, but I think it's a nice curiosity, but I wasn't like, oh wow, this tore my heart out. What did you guys think of these two versions here?
Honestly, I haven't listened to disc 1 enough to form an opinion.
This reminds me
did nothing for me.
There was a Whitney Houston interview, and the interviewer was like, Whitney, what do you think of Mariah? She's like, what do I think of her? I don't think of her. That's how we feel about disc 1. I don't think of her.
I think A Case of You is okay, but I think Woman of Heart and Mind is really quite good. I buy it. I really do.
And I like the Don't Interrupt the Sorrow. Moving back a little bit, I like the piano on the Don't Interrupt the Sorrow. It's like, I hadn't heard that before. Yeah, okay, cool.
I just felt like she'd evolved so much, like, philosophically since Woman of Heart of Mind. Like, that's a wonderful song. But, like, the Joni Mitchell 76 is so different than Joni Mitchell 72 to me. So it's just weird for me to hear her play that song. I don't know. It's cool. I mean, whatever. All right, moving on. Any thoughts? Any thoughts on this little section here?
I'll say one more thing about Women of Heart and Mind. If you've seen the Scorsese film, she's at this sausage party, and so she's like kind of trying to get back at him.
Yeah. Fuck your strangers. All right. Well, December 4th, 1975. Joni Mitchell just goes out, let me play a new song. Here's Coyote. So here we have our first version of Coyote. A pretty good song, I would say. A pretty good song. A really fucking one of the best songs ever written, right? Yeah, let's talk about Coyote, then we'll go into the next section, because you got Bob.
Yeah, so I mean, she comes up and she says, "Here's a song I'm working on. I've added some verses. I don't know if it's done." She throws in all these new lyrics. You know, he's got a woman for the night, and now he wants one for the day. The salt air and 50-mile tides. Louis on the balcony. Lyrics that she would eventually change, and we'll see more of that as the set continues. So but she has that riff. And that riff is the amazing thing. You know, we all saw the video where she's playing it, and Dylan and Roger McGuinn and I guess Gordon Lightfoot, whoever, are looking at her and saying, "Holy crap! You know, nobody ever thought of this riff, and it's maybe one of the best riffs ever written."
All right, now Chris.
This is December. By February, she has, I don't know if she has written it in the interim or whether or not she's already had it and decided that she's going to work them together, but she begins to, in February, pair Coyote with Don Juan's Reckless Daughter as kind of a bookend. Now, I saw this tour, and one of the tracks that's on this disc, I was in the audience for. It's the one from Nassau Coliseum. But I will tell you this, whether or not, and Coyote was evolving, true, as Bob says, she's, editing her lyrics and always seeming to make the right choice. The thing about Coyote and Don Juan's Reckless Daughter is that it was immediately apparent that there was some type of sea change musically for her, because all of the melodies, these lush melodies that were supported by strings and lyrical piano, are gone, and it's percussive guitar and sharp timing and staccato notes and talked phrases and things like that. So it's becoming music is becoming suddenly a very, very different graphic for her. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that as magnificent as the Hejira package is, I don't know if it necessarily was as completely her creation whole unto herself as where the music wound up cohesively fitting together on Hejira. So I'm saying there's the beginning of a real change here that we weren't expecting sitting in the audience. Mm-hmm. That suddenly she was exposing us to, and I can't think of anywhere else in her career that, besides adding the orchestra, obviously, that was as huge a difference. I mean, this was, in my mind, this was like almost like Dylan going electric for me when sitting and hearing that.
All right, I'll pause.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, hearing the live stuff, and I always will enjoy hearing these live tracks. The older I get, and being part of this group, we've heard so many of these things before. The thing with The Case of You is cute, but, am I going to sit through that 100 times? I mean, I would skip that. But Woman of Heart and Mind, I enjoyed here, but this, that kind of thing is just not what I would listen to, on often. I mean, I really enjoyed it for the roses, and we're not there yet. But like I said, and these live recordings, like I said, my question to the producers is, all these curiosities, why not put them on one disc and sort of include liner notes that you could follow along with and find out more information about what was going on at that time,
Right.
or during the sessions. And I wonder, in the archives, I mean, I'd love to just see a printout of what the archives are and what other choices are being left out, because I've got to believe that during this fertile time and all the things that Bob said and other people have said about this period of her creativity, I've got to believe that there's a lot more stuff in those vaults than we've heard about so far.
All right, and Paz, I'm with you. Like, it's cool to have the curiosities, but it's not something that I would go back and visit a lot, because, like I said in the email I sent, to me, the final albums are like the Bibles of my life. So a lot of times, it's cool to hear the works in progresses in the live versions. But I agree. All right, so moving on to the next little segment, we have a bunch of old songs live. We have Help Me, Lover Money, Free Man in Paris, For the Roses, Cold Blue Steel, Big Yellow Taxi, Shades of Scarlet, and For Free. Man, she just sounds so bored on all those versions of Big Yellow Taxi on this whole set, I feel like. I mean, talk about autopilot. Not one of them has any of the fire of like the Ladies of the Canyon version. What do you guys think of any of the other stuff from this little section of the album? They pave paradise, put up a... It's like, Joni.
I think that the Cold Blue Steel and Sweet Fire is pretty fantastic on this set. I really enjoyed her performance. I thought the band really helped out in a big way, more so than I expected. I was actually surprised by that. And I don't know how often she performed it, but her singing and the chromatics in her piano on Shades of Scarlet Conquering is really good.
Yeah.
So
Heard 5 versions of that.
yeah, I don't think she did it all that often. That's a hard song to play and sing with, I think. Again, musically, and maybe that's why she changed. Maybe she said this shit is too hard to tour with. It's possible. But yeah, it's a beautiful song, and she really delivered it well, I think, on this set.
I feel like Joni Mitchell is an artist who liked to play her new music, and who doesn't? That's a songwriter. But when we get to that version of For Free, I almost felt like it was like a Vegas version. Like she was just kind of making jokes through the whole song, Craig. Like,
no, wait, isn't this the one where she tells the entire story?
Yeah, she tells a story about.
And she's her friend telling her you're too vulnerable or you're too good. Or something. You're so naive.
Joni, you're a very naive person.
Yeah, I did love the story.
I was there, and can I be honest? That was one of the quietest moments of the whole show. Most of it was pretty much rockin'. The band was on stage most of the time. I don't recall a lot of unplugged moment like on Miles of Isles. I think there were fewer, and this was one of them.
And this is all stuff from her tour that got canceled, right?
Right.
It started out and then it fizzled.
Oh, and by the way, the night of the show, the music hall in Boston, that was Kaloran's 11th birthday.
Oh.
So I mean, I don't think that particular anniversary was an easy day for Joni for decades. So,
do you know why they decided to split the songs from that show and divide them with other stuff?
I don't know, but I kind of liked it. When I first heard it, I thought, you know what, I would probably be annoyed if I was an archivist, but the way the set that they configured through it, I thought complemented very nicely.
Okay.
I've put Mike for me. What do you?
I'm like, yeah, well. Now, Joni historians, of course, the Miles of Isles tour, she's with the LA Express. What was the band on this pre-Hijira tour that ended up being dissolved?
It's the LA Express without Tom Scott. Basically.
Okay, so same.
Different.
And Robin Ford was.
Yeah, Robin Ford.
And
Yeah.
Robin Ford.
Robin Ford on guitar.
Okay, did Bobby Hall ever tour with her on the congas?
In '78 with Jocko, I think.
With Jocko? Okay. I'm a huge Bobby Hall fan from not only Joni, but she's on all of the early Stevie Nicks solo tours. So, all right. Well, we are now in February 1976. Intro to Coyote / Don Juan's Reckless Daughter. So we have our first mashup, and when I was listening to my car, you hear Coyote, and then the whole band comes in for Don Juan. I was like, oh, whoa. What do you guys think of this mashup here? What do you think of these as the sweetest songs in this version of it?
I like it.
Yeah.
We had
I find the transition really abrupt, but it really works. I mean, it's like suddenly, boom, that song's over, and boom, now we're doing the next one.
There was something about Don Juan's Reckless Daughter when I first heard it that I thought of Coyote.
Right.
And there's something about the chord structure I'm not musically knowledgeable enough really to pin it down, but there was something there.
I think it's the Bo Diddley strum, that kind of,
do 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 do.
And Sue, you said it's the same tuning?
Tuning, yeah.
What other songs are in that tuning in her repertoire?
Just like this train.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's that.
I know I'm putting you on the spot here. Sorry.
I mean, there's a pile of them.
CGDFCE, right?
Yeah, right. And it's Woman of Heart and Mind is in that tuning.
Okay.
And there's a couple others.
It'd be interesting to kind of like, I'm sure this exists, but if there's like a chart with like this tuning, here's the songs in that tuning, to see if like thematically the songs that are in the same kind of tuning kind of had the same kind of vibe.
The guitar site. If you select list all the songs that are in, it's called a gig setup. It's like if you wanted a gig so that you could have like, in the same relative tunings, you could sort the songs by tuning.
I'm going to go do that because I just want to see like, Sue, I mean, you're someone that really dove deep into this. Do you feel like each tuning kind of has its own vibe, I guess? Or...
Yeah, Don't Interrupt the Sorrow, I think, is in that tuning too. And it's like, there's...
No? Don't Interrupt the Sorrow is the same tuning as Cold Blue Steel and Sweet Fire.
Oh, right. You're right. Yeah, so the one that is Coyote and...
Coyote, Don Juan, Just Like This Train, Ladies of the Canyon, Ciso Tobel Lane, Woman of Heart and Mind. Those are the songs in that same tuning.
Now the acoustic version of Shadows and Light because same tuning too.
All right, so now we're just going to take this away here. Am I missing anybody? Did I skip anybody? Okay. We have more old songs, Just Like This Train, Shadows and Light, which Sue's going to be playing for us in a moment. In France, They Kiss on Main Street. Let's talk about those three really quick. Or not really quick. Let's talk about those three, because I feel like what comes next is going to be its own discussion. Well, this is a version of Shadows and Light. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Do you think Joni wrote this as an acoustic song or as an a cappella and then went back to the guitar?
Well, I mean, it was on Hissing of Summer Lawns. So, I mean, she does work out songs on guitar, but that seemed to be like a totally, the poem was written to, this synthesizer type of thing. So I don't really remember her playing it acoustically until the Rolling Thunder Review.
Right.
So I think maybe she just worked it out later so she could play it on guitar.
Okay.
Does that sound like, am I talking out my butt here?
No, not at all.
Not at the same time as Last Waltz.
I would believe that, Sue, and I'll say why. I think that there are certain songs that she writes that could easily be played on a keyboard like an organ, like the Farfisa or the ARP, whatever she was using on the album version of Shadows and Light. So if she wanted to do, like, for me, Amelia might as well be played on an organ. It sounds to me like it's a hymn. It's and that's how it conveys to me anyway. But so I can see that, Sue, that she worked it out on the guitar, because I think she was conversant to be able to work that kind of color in both of the instruments.
And the poetry of it was probably something she felt really deeply, because it like kind of goes with that whole Our Lady of Duality thing that we used to talk about on the JMDL. It's like very intense poem. I mean, when I was reading it, and the lyrics are slightly different in this way that she sang it in this, and some of the extra lyrics are pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's like I could see her just like working something out, because she wanted to sing that song, and she didn't want to play it on piano. She just wanted to go out and play it on guitar. So, and she was in that tuning anyway, because she played Just Like the Streamer just before it. Was that the same night? Maybe not. Well, it was that same tour. Within a couple of days, she played it. On that tour, and that was the tour that Mark listened to get the tuning for the tab. So.
Well, Sue, speaking of Shadows and Light, would you like to perform a version of for us? Let me pause the recording to get set up, and then we will do this thing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time since we've done this, but I'm so pleased to present to you the grand madame of the Joni Mitchell tuning herself, the world famous Sue Tierney, doing a version of Shadows and Light for us all to enjoy. I'm going to mute my microphone. It is all yours, Sue.
All right, great. Here we go. Every picture has its shadows. It has some source of light. Blindness inside. The perils of benefactors and the blessings of parasites. Blindness inside. Written by all things, by the devil of cruelty, and I'm drawn to all things by the sweet devil left in my head, yeah. Mythical devil of the ever-present loss, giving us our usual blindness and our occasional insight. Suntans in reservation dining rooms, pale miners in their lantern gaze. It's like night and day. Look at the hostage smiles on presidents, freedom scribbled in the subways. It's like night and day. We're threatened by all things. We're threatened by the god of cruelty, just as we are drawn to all things for the sweet God of delight. Mythical God, poet created God. Label the experience, the phenomenon of night and day. Critics of all expression, judges in black and white, saying what is wrong and what is right, compelled by prescribed standards of our own troubles and our own ideas we fight. Oh, wrong and right. And we are threatened by all things. We are men of cruelty, just as we are drawn to all things. Sweet man of delight. Man who makes these laws, man who breaks the laws that we call wrong, wrong and right. Societies are wrong and right, legalities are wrong and right, rich man's wrong and right, poor man's wrong and right. Best friends got a code of wrong and right. Everybody's got their internal wrong or right. Natural wrong and right. Wrong and right. Wrong and right.
Wonderful, Sue.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Great job, Sue.
Thank you. Wow.
Gorgeous.
I would love to hear a version of that, but with the Persuasion singing over the music. Imagine that. Like they're kind of soulful harmonies. That'd be fucking awesome. Sue, I loved
That
it.
was great, Sue.
Thanks.
That was great. I loved it.
I know, it was, the lyrics are a little different. It's kind of cool.
I told you you got
I
it,
think
Sue.
Yeah.
I think
Dude,
I
what-
like that version better than the one on Hissing of Summer Lawns, the one
Yeah.
that she just did. It's
Yeah.
so soulful and
I know.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
What's waiting on Archives 5 for Sue to tackle? Get ready for that acoustic dancing clown. It's a coming.
They should have Wild Things Run Fast on that, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
love Moon at the Window.
It had almost like a protest song of the 70s kind of feel to
Yeah.
it. Definitely had a very different vibe.
Yeah.
It's cool.
All right, so we move on. The first live performance of a song called Traveling, which would later be renamed Hejira, or however y'all motherfuckers pronounce it on this podcast. But we're not going down that road. We're not going down those
That's the
white
way I
lines
say it,
again.
too. More power to you, Jeremy.
Thank you very much. All right. From now on, I'm just gonna call the album Traveling. What do you guys think of this early version? Now, didn't Dave Blackburn say it was in a different key?
You know, I
You wanna go,
wanted to
Chance?
say something about some of the guitar songs in this, the way that it's been, like maybe that's what people were talking about when they were talking about how it sounded bad. Because sometimes the guitar sounds a little out of tune because of the, maybe the speed of the tape or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But there were some songs, like, I think that now that I'm thinking about it, it could have been during that first disc.
Definitely on disc one.
Yeah, where
There was a
it's
lot
like
of
she's playing
tuning.
something, and I was
Yeah.
like, dude, that's out of tune, but she doesn't play out of tune.
Right.
But
Yeah.
this particular song sounds like a 12 string,
Yeah.
which I like. I like doing Hijira on a 12 string.
It's funny that you say that. I did notice something about the guitar, but I honestly thought that it was like a hollow body. I thought it was a hollow body 6. And I thought it was like an electric that she was kind of feeling her way through. Maybe I've got this confused with a different version. I should listen to it again.
Bob, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so this was, one of the revelations of this set was this traveling Hijira, and it made me happy and mad. Mad because she's playing this at Duke's Cameron Indoor Stadium in February of '76. I was living in Raleigh, about half an hour away, and I did not go to this show for whatever reason. I didn't know about it, whatnot, but to have been in Cameron Indoor Stadium to hear her play this set would have been amazing. And
Stoned, Bob?
Huh?
Were you stoned?
No, I mean, I guess I was still too much involved with Steely Dan, Doobie Brothers, etc. And I didn't. I mean, this advertising was what it was. There was no internet, so I didn't know Joni was playing at '76 at Cameron Indoor Stadium. So that's where she was, half an hour from where I was. Didn't go see that show. She rarely toured the Carolinas. She hated the Carolinas really ever since Fayetteville when she met Killer Kyle. But to hear this in February and the lyrics, if you've heard it, and you should, are so drastically different from where they ended up. And then we have later on the next disc, on disc 3, her version in March, where she's pruned it and tuned it and rechanged all the lyrics to pretty much where they settled for the recorded version. Just goes to prove that she knew intrinsically what worked, what didn't, what to leave in, what to take out, and how to make this song one of, in my opinion, the best songs ever written by anybody ever.
Yeah, amen.
In a month, in 1 month, I mean, most artists, they take Traveling and record it, and they're done. This song is good. Okay, I'm going to record it and move on. But Joni knew what worked and what didn't, and in 1 month's time, she had reworked it to where it pretty much ended up. And this is just a symbol in this set of her pure genius.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like that she workshops the songs in front of the audience. You know what I mean? She's not afraid to bring out the songs as their works in progress.
It was a process for her. I mean, these songs weren't born out of whole cloth, and I just love having that process in front of us. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, Chris, and I stand corrected because you're right on that. On this particular one that you're talking about right now, it does sound like a 6-string. It's the other one. It's the demo is the one that sounded like a 12-string to me.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on Traveling before we travel forward? All right, so we have a live set here, and she's starting to play some of the Hijira songs live. And can we say that essentially Talk to Me was a Hijira song that didn't make it on the album, and then, it was written during the same time here, right? Can you imagine if it had made the album, Chris?
Well, first of all, Talk to Me is really strong here. It's really strong. But as much as y'all know me, I have said some really, really, really terrible things about the version of Rainy Night House done with the LA Express.
Yeah.
Can I say something out loud with witnesses? Not one of those bad things I said about that version applies to this recording of that same version of the song.
Oh, it was better, Chris.
This is fantastic. It is head and shoulders above what is on Miles of Hiles. And it's not that, and much later on in our show tonight, when we get to Forest Hills, that's what they should have released. Were it not for the stupid video they were probably recording the same time that they were going to do out in California at Greek Theater. This performance was fantastic.
What made it better, in your opinion?
Her fit within the band and within the mix. She was more present with the song, I think, than as a stylist with the version that appeared on. This was jazz as opposed to what was recorded for Miles of Isles, which is jazzy in my mind.
It's kind of like the distinction between like the jazz club and the hotel lobby band. All right. So anyway, this section that we're talking about, we have live versions of Edith and the Kingpin, Talk to Me, Harry's House with Centerpiece in it. She debuts Furry Sings the Blues. We have Trouble Child, Rainy Night House, Don't Interrupt the Sorrow Again, and then Raised on Robbery. And I'm going to reserve the last couple songs for their own conversation. Any other things about this little group here? Furry. Go ahead, Chris.
Furry Sings the Blues is fantastic here too. I mean, this is the first time we're hearing this, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it is. You know, she tells the story, I believe, too, of meeting Furry, and you know, there's a whole sets it up beautifully, and for the most part, all things considered, LA Express kind of stays most of the way out of the way for her here, and the song is still able to convey that respect for, you know, for ragtime and jazz and that whole, you know, decrepit story that she wanted to paint, you know, visually for us. It's a great song, and it from the get-go, out of the box, it's a great song.
Sue, did you have something?
Well, I just wanted to say I lived Harry's House for the last 6 months, so you know, listening to her play Harry's House was really cool. I mean, you know, I don't know if it was the best version ever. They played 2 versions on this archive, and one she attempts to sing Centerpiece,
right?
And the other one is, you know, just I feel like if she's playing it acoustic, she should not do the Centerpiece part,
right?
Because I think it works better. But I just love that song so much, and it sounds wonderful, you know, acoustically.
Because doesn't she just kind of keep the Harry's House music going with just some improv lines of Centerpiece over it, kind of?
Yeah. It was kind of weird, but but the thing that
not quite a centerpiece.
I mean, how she plays the guitar, she's got these couple of finger pickings that she does that actually sounds like traffic. That is just so intensely amazing to me, you know. You know, bum bum ding dong ding dong ding ding, and it sounds like there's horns honking. It's really cool.
And I can't help but remember how great the production choice was on the hissing version, where it kind of like the plane landing.
Yeah.
Well, when we played it in Rochester, a woman played the cello to make that noise at the beginning of the song.
Oh, cool!
It sounded amazing. So.
Chris, do you remember, since you were at that show, do you remember experiencing Furry Sings the Blues, or is that too long ago?
I really don't remember her singing it. That wasn't the show that I was at, although it was. The show that I was at was on February 20, and this was February 19. So it's very possible she would have kept it in the set. I just don't remember her telling a story like that, or me recognizing the song. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't expecting it, and it sailed over my head. I don't know what, but I didn't walk out remembering this song.
Okay.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on this little segment here? Well, next is something I never thought I'd hear: a full band live version of the Jungle Line. Now, talk about avant-garde, or whatever the fucking word is. This is not Big Yellow Taxi, people. This is not CISO Tobel. I mean, imagine if Joni Mitchell did. I feel like she could have continued her career as an experimental musician. You know, we love that she went into the 80s, switching gears. But this, I mean, this is like, me and my friends have a joke. There's like art, then there's like art. And I feel like this live version of Jungle Line is like art. For better or worse, I mean, oh boy, Chris, you got
Don't hold back, Jeremy.
Damn, I think this is one of the best transitions of recording to live performance I've ever heard. That the way they were able, was this Guerin and who else? Who was the other percussion? Who was there? They completely recreated those African drums, and so believably, and the ovation that that she allows to follow it. It's clear she wants to make sure everybody's getting their props as she releases this, because it is fantastic.
Yeah.
Even if she edited the applause to extend it, it deserved every bit of that extension.
I mean, it's a wild piece of music. I mean, on the album, on Hissing, it's a wild piece of music. But this live version, I mean,
fantastic.
This is fucking Joni Mitchell doing music like this, and it's so fucking cool, man. Fantastic. Like, I wish she had done more like this. Bob.
So I remember, you know, in the early days of the JMDL, when I got into big time trading, Patrick Leader sent me the Spectrum Philadelphia show from '76, and I looked when I first got it. I looked at the set list, and it's like "Talk to Me," "Jungle Line." It was an incredible set list, and I couldn't wait to hear it. And then when I did, blew me away. Most of these '76 shows, which I saw after as many as I could, and very few of them have the quality that these shows do on this set. But this was pretty much the encore of her '76 shows.
Okay.
Raised on Robbery, Jungle Line, and then she closed with Twisted, doing the things she does. You know, are you all really crazy? I'm crazy. Are you crazy? And then Twisted was always the closer. After that, the show was over. Yeah, so the '76 shows were just unbelievable. I loved them, and I tried to get as many of them as I could. A lot of them were very bad quality, but they were what they were, and I loved them. And so this was really, really nice to have these nice '76 recordings in a much better quality than what I had been listening to all these years.
Yeah, those toms, like the drumming is just out of this world, man. All right, and you know, when I saw the track list and I saw Jungle Line for a live version, I'm like, oh, she's gonna do that acoustic version from. You know, I was all dismissive, like, yeah, she's gonna do that. Then you hear, I'm like, fuck me. All right, well, any other thoughts on the Jungle Line '76 tour version? Well, then we get the hotel.
Just want to give props to Robin and Dave, who also do actually two different versions of Jungle Line, and they're both killer.
Oh, they are. They do great versions.
They really are.
If you're listening, we love you guys. All right. Speaking of the hotel lobby, I kind of feel like this version of Twisted is a little less jazz club, a little more Holiday Inn house band. And not to mention the way she's talking about being crazy, I feel like in the way we speak of mental illness in these modern times was a little dated. But anyway, go ahead, Chris.
This is the most affected singing Joni Mitchell ever recorded or released. She can't help herself. She has to let herself try to sound, only because it's all she ever knew. She has to sound like Annie. And so when it first started playing, I was like, who's singing? And then I thought, oh my God, it's Joni, but she can't get the Annie out. She can't not do Annie for a moment. It was pretty shocking. I think she got over it by the time, this was after Court and Sparks. Somehow she was able to, have lost that in the studio upon playback. But when she's out in it, she was a teenager again, singing the song, which is lovely. But I have one big question about this track. Who's singing the harmony with her for the last line? Nobody's credited.
Yeah, she is on Spotify.
Who?
Here, let me... Because I saw the name on there. Somebody keep talking while I look for this.
I was, thinking, who is that? Who is that? I said, is that Chaka? Was it Chaka?
No, it wasn't Chaka Khan. Now I can't find this shit. Okay.
All right. We'll find out. All right. Trivia question of the night.
Good trivia.
Maybe it was on Wikipedia, but I'll keep looking for it till I find it. I saw the name somewhere. All right. Well, any other thoughts on this version of Twisted? All right. Here we go, you guys. Do you guys need to take a quick break before we go and get into the good stuff here?
Let's roll.
All right. Hijira, the demos. Who heard these before this set? Had anybody heard these?
Nope.
No.
We dreamt about them.
You dreamt about them. Dreams come true. I keep telling myself that. We have 9 songs here that were demoed up for the Hijira album. Furry Sings the Blues. It was still called Traveling. Dreamland, which was recorded for Hissing, but then considered for Hijira. Talk to Me. We have Coyote and Don Juan as a medley still. A version of Black Crow. Amelia, Blue Motel Room, and A Strange Boy. So there's a lot to talk about here. Who wants to start? We can just talk about Sue. Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing that I found really interesting about these demos, and it wasn't all the songs, but there were some songs where her voice sounded like very gentle. Like it was like a little softer and higher than it was on the album. And I found that really unusual. It was like, wow, it's like she's being timid with these songs in a way, And then later on, I think with like A Strange Boy and a couple other of them, they sounded more like they did on the album, where her voice sounded more like confident and strong. I mean, I don't know if anybody else heard that, but I found it really interesting.
Hey, Chris.
They're beautiful, but it's a little different.
The harmony was Gail Ford on Twisted.
Thank you.
Whoever that may be. Does anybody know who Gail Ford was?
Is it Gail or Gale?
Gail. It's on Wikipedia.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Well, first of all, let's talk about this Amelia demo. She starts off with the last verse, right?
Yeah, that just got me.
Yeah, I was like, or she's talking about bringing the soap out of the wrapper.
Yeah.
Right, and shower off the dust.
It's showering off the dust.
Right.
And boy, I'm glad she changed it.
Yeah.
And then the version that we know is the first verse was the last verse in this demo version, wasn't it? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, so it ends with the revelation in the heavens. So it really changes the whole structure from going big to going small, from going small to going big. So, and like I said, I'm glad she changed it.
Right. It also is less reflective and more, I get, in a sense of the lyric is more through composed. It's kind of telling a longitudinal story as opposed to, sort of thinking back on something we've already, that she has seen.
All right, what
a fucking beautiful song.
I know. I'm looking at the lyrics because there was one melody line that she changed, and the way she did it in this original version, just when I was doing that post Hurricane Drive, was like ripped my heart out. But I can't find what line it was. But she does like a da 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 da, and it was different than she did it on the album. And I just love. It was so sad the way she sang it, and that to me was the highlight of this whole set. I wish I could remember what line it was, but
does Spotify list the lyrics like as they're sung on the record, or
no? Not? I'm just looking at the official version.
The official versions.
Yeah.
Sue, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Did she change up, because she's recorded this Hejira traveling demo on acoustic guitar, did she change up the picking strategy at all? Add additional notes, or somehow it sounds a bit more folky, more in the Silky Veils kind of
Right.
feeling.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Kind of abbreviated.
Mm-hmm.
In some of my, I think I hear more notes even. I don't know why that is, than when she moved to the hollow body sound with the amp for the album.
Right. Yeah.
Was it
interesting?
Was it the line, "This is how I hide the hurt"? Is that the one that she sings different on this? I should have done my homework, but I just have no free time to myself.
There's a lot of detail in this set to pick through.
Yeah.
It's interesting because
I'm remembering what you're talking about, Jeremy. I'm remembering noticing it, but I can't remember what it was either.
It's interesting because I think there's probably a different little piece of this that just grabbed all of us, and that was just the magic of the whole set. Now, Blue Motel Room is in a totally different time signature, isn't it? Or strummed completely differently in this original version?
Yeah, I mean, I found it sounded different. I loved it though. It sounded great.
Yeah, but the real revelation is Black Crow with Chaka Khan throwing those vocals in.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that's the damn torpedo here in the set for me.
Well, that's the next section, isn't it? When we get into the early.
No, it's a demo. It's right here in these demos.
Let me look.
It's track 6 on disc 3.
Yeah, it's the demo. Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, do you guys like Shaka's part on there?
Is that the one where it ends with her saying that was pretty good? There's one that she does. That sounds okay. That was nice.
I think she says that at the end of the Hejira, which cracked me up. Oh yeah, it's pretty good. You know, it's like, are you kidding?
I'll keep that. Yeah, we get to keep that.
I like that version a lot. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and it's something, these songs, and it's very common to hear a different version of a song that we've all been listening to for 50 years and think, oh, I don't like that because I only like what I've heard for the last 50 years. So it takes a lot to say, yeah, this is maybe a little bit better or it adds something to what I'm used to hearing since 1976.
I wonder what made her decide to change Blue Motel Room to a, the way Joni recorded Blue Motel Room is really a different kind of song for her. Like the way she strummed it, this demo here is more, sounds like a Joni Mitchell song standard. Don't you feel like in a way? So I wonder what made her decide to go with the arrangement. I like them both. I think it's cool to have both. And I do think the way she recorded it on Hejira did, help with the pacing of the album and kind of switch gears and made it continually interesting as a listener. So I think she made the right production choice, but I'm just curious exactly why she did.
I don't know if it's this particular set of songs, but one thing I noticed on this particular archive is, to me anyway, and maybe it's some of the live versions, have this warmth in her voice that on the record, it wasn't so much there. It was like it was maybe just a little bit too perfect. I don't know. Maybe that's a horrible thing to say, but I'm having a hard time expressing it. But there was just something that I could really feel an immediacy in the way she was singing.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's what I was trying to get at too with these songs. This a couple of the versions that sounded like a lot more. She would have said "ingenue," not really, but they sounded like softer in a way. Yeah,
I almost feel like there's a little bit of a, I don't know if chilly or detached is the word, but the official versions just have a little detachment, and I feel like we're right in there with her. Okay, Chris and then Bob.
I think I agree with you, Jeremy, that there's an immediacy to some of these demos, and I've really, she took care to sort of finesse some details in both how she was playing and singing and placing the words with the music she was creating. And it's different than what wound up being on the record. And I can't say that one is better than the other. I think that this is closer to probably where she had written them, in terms of, you could see her writing these songs, either, getting out of the car and doing it in a motel room, or in a a cafe, or wherever she was writing these songs, sort of putting them together, and then just playing with them at her kitchen table before she went into the studio. And this is kind of where she sort of was distilling what was powerful about them, and then she gave them all a patina, made them part of a volume, and very successfully, with how she ordered and how she configured the instrumentation on Hejira. Again, the process worked in her favor. She made I think, the right decisions.
Yeah.
But it's you can see that, yes, the same person did write these songs, and this is one step back in revealing that.
A patina, that's a good word, I think, Chris. I kept thinking of varnishing these things, but patina's better.
Well, pastiche may be even a better one. I mean, there's a whole, envelope of insularity that sort of permeates the whole Hejira record, and it comes across graphically so well with the visuals of the snow and the stark contrast in the black and white. I mean, it's as a package, it's preeminent.
And you have to think that these demos were recorded as she was feeling those feelings, like right at that time that she was writing the song and had to put it to tape. Pause. Your hand is up.
Yeah. Once again, as far as listening to demos, it's like when I first got the hissing demos from Bob, and I heard the songs, and I feel the same way about these demos. I mean, they're youthful, they're so new, and they're so fresh, and the way that you see them grow between her playing them in the live format in front of people, or finally getting to the mic stand in the studio and actually cutting these songs. I learned, I mean, obviously the Beatles ones come to mind more than anything, because I geeked out on all of the bootlegs that I collected back when still there was no CDs. Everything was on cassette, and it was a company called Swinging Pig out of Germany that had got all these recordings, and I geeked out on them for like months at a time, just dissecting all this music that these guys had put out and in the studio. But then, when you finally hear the finished version, and it's grown up so much, where I really experienced this firsthand was when I was working with Joe Tullis on his final recording. Some of the songs, my favorite ones, were songs that I'd never heard him do before. But after he died, and I went through his computer hard drive and accumulated a bunch of his old demos and stuff that he'd just done, like with a 4-track in his home, and then what we actually did in the studio for those 17 days that we were recording, it was remarkable of how he made them sound and put his Joe Tullis magic on the songs. For me, this is one of the best parts of loving music, is getting to hear these babies and then see them grow up and pat them on the butt, as they take off and get a job and go out there into the world. So yeah, it's remarkable, and all these, I got to listen to it again tomorrow from back to finish. I listened to these several times since October, but yeah, I need to just listen to these 9 songs again, maybe tomorrow for breakfast.
And you can buy them as a standalone release from Record Store Day Black Friday. It's a nice little vinyl. I have it back there, but I'm too lazy to go find it.
I haven't taken the shrink wrap off of mine yet.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little collectible. All right, any other thoughts on the Hajira demos? All right, so we're moving on.
Hey, Bob.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, just a quick thing. It's like, when you go to an art museum, and we have a pretty good art museum here in Greenville, they'll do an artist's work, and then they'll include sketches, preliminary sketches the artist did before the paintings were complete. And I love those sketches. You get to see what the artist was thinking. Maybe it might be like a sketch of a hand or a person's outline of a body. And then you see the finished painting and you realize what the artist was working with minimally before they saw and imagined and realized the big picture. And that's why I love these demos. Now, in this case, a lot of these demos are complete. I mean, they were not a lot of change between what Black Crow notwithstanding, between what she put on the record and what she has here. And I had to laugh because in the early days, I'm talking 90, 98, 99, 2000 days, we joked about Hajira demos, which we realized we would never, ever get, but we dreamt about them, right, Sue? And all of a sudden, here they are. They're right in front of us. And it's like, holy cow, this is pretty amazing. And these are sketches of what the artist eventually would refine and release. And to those of us who love this era, and I think that's all 9 of us, it's just a revelation.
Yeah. Now, do you guys remember an interview with Chaka Khan a couple of years ago? She's like, I went and cut vocals on the song. She was talking about Dreamland, I feel like, but Joni took me off. But I think Chaka was misremembering probably Black Crow, but we didn't realize it at the time because Chaka's vocals are on Dreamland. So I always thought that was a weird interview.
Good point.
I don't feel like Chaka would have worked on the final album. So I think Joni made a correct choice, but it's still cool to hear what she did. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, but I will say track 13 of disc 3, The Refuge of the Roads, Hajira Sessions. I like the horns on Refuge. I really like them. To me, it gives it a Steely Dan kind of a feel, a little bit. They're not overdone. I think they were very, very subtle and very useful. Of course, what she released was brilliant on Hajira, but I have no problem with the horns on Refuge of the Road. They were subtle and they were there. And I don't know, Chris.
I think she's gone on record to say, she thinks in retrospect she made a mistake. Personally, I think this version is fantastic with the horns. I love it. I don't know if I would have liked it on the album. I'm actually thinking that I think she made the right decision to leave the horns off the album. Personally, and I'm sorry that I'm having this conversation now. I kind of wanted to wait until we got to that one track.
Well, let's get to
a couple of tracks.
I miss Jaco on these. I miss Jaco Pastorius. I mean,
let's officially move to these two. We have 2 songs from the Hajira sessions: "Refuge of the Roads." No Jaco, but with horns. First of all, can you imagine Jaco and horns? I think that would have been an overload. And then we have an early version of Don Juan's Reckless Daughter, which to my ear sounds like the album version. It sounded like the same vocal take to me.
I think you're right. You're right.
I think they just slapped it on the next album and added through the whole song.
I don't think it's the same. I forget why I don't think it's the same, but I thought that, and then I listened to it, and I decided it wasn't. But
what about Song for Sharon?
Yeah, the live version. We did skip over that. I apologize.
But before we talk about the songs, she went back to the Rolling Thunder review.
Yeah, she's back in the Rolling Thunder. She does Black Crow and Song for Sharon. Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, you're on mute.
I have to leave.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, Mark.
Bye, Mark.
Bye, Mark.
Night, Mark.
And then there were 8. Yeah, I hate this version of Song for Sharon. I hate the way she sings it. I don't like the guitar sound, the recording. And it's one of my favorite songs. I mean, no doubt.
All right. Any other thoughts on these Rolling Thunder revisited things? Bob, your hand was up.
Yeah, I mean, just to repeat, that when she does Black Crow, that version of Black Crow, and the band is tearing it up. Mick Ronson has a big, long guitar solo where he just runs wild. And at the end of it, Joni starts laughing, and she says, "We just worked this up before the show," and it was a magic moment. Richard is laughing and smiling. I think he feels the same as me, where you feel like, okay, if you were there in that crowd, you just saw some magic happen. Mm-hmm. And what a great band, and what a fun version of the song.
Isn't it interesting the bass part that Jocko did put on Don Juan, like that, just the bass.
Yeah,
it's so weird but brilliant. Like, what a weird choice.
I remember watching Chris Marshall play it at Ashara's on one of the earliest Joni fests, and all he does is like boom, boom, boom. It's just bass bomb after bass bomb, and I said, "That's amazing." He said, "It's really easy."
It'll be interesting. I'm gonna go back and listen, because I thought it was the same version. I could just picture Joni like, puts Jocko and some ankle bells on it and just put it on the fucking album. I get the title track. All right,
disc 4.
Yeah, disc 4. We've released Hajira. She wrote, even though the merchant didn't want her to have black ice skates because only men wear them, she insisted, because her tour, it was a funeral for her tour. So that's the story of the album artwork, which is told in the liner notes. But now we've moved on to 1977. Joni's fucking around at the piano, and Henry just is pressing record.
God bless him.
God bless him. This is the Paprika Plains embryonic version. It's interesting. You can hear where they cherry picked sections of this and made a version. Chris, I can hear the fucking pieces of Paprika Plains. Don't tell me I'm wrong on my fucking podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Chris. So, what's your take?
All right, I know this piece pretty well.
Right.
And there's probably 3 seconds in Save Magic that might have been lifted. I think that I was looking so forward to that when I heard that this was going to be on this archive set. I thought, oh my God, we're finally going to get to hear all of the outs. And we're going to get a clue into how, kind of maybe a little bit of a roadmap on some of how she makes editing choices. And I listened so hard to this because I wanted to be able to piece it together myself, even, right, just to play with it. And there are certainly she is exploring all of the motifs she uses all the way through it. She hasn't yet decided what narrative role they're going to play in the final piece at all. And again, I think there's maybe a 3-second section that I could say might be the actual performance they somehow cleaned up. But it was not to be the roadmap that I kind of heard in my mind's ear and was sort of pining for. It's really beautiful to listen to, and as far as Henry, knowing well enough, I don't think it was maybe quite the surprise as the liner notes, if they're in there, might intimate. My recollection of what I'm aware of is in the liner notes for this section is that Cameron Crowe begins to talk about it and she shuts him down relatively easily on it, and that there isn't all that much discussion about where it came from. She, in several interviews, had said that she was at one point feeling like she couldn't hit a wrong note. And she was feeling so good about the way she was playing piano. She called Henry and she said, "We've got to get into the studio." So I don't think it was any surprise that that tape was going to be rolling. This is not Henry Louis making a bootleg. This is aiding her process to help her develop this song. So as it is, it's wonderful to listen to. I don't know that it has the academic cred that perhaps I was praying for, but it's damn fine.
And I will say I stand corrected because I did not feel like it was the final versions of Paprika Plains. I thought it was kind of her fucking around with the piano.
Oh, no, the motifs are there. There's no doubt about it. Oh,
but let's also mention, though, that on a previous podcast, you played this whole song. So if anyone knows this song, Chris, it's you. So
don't forget, I play it like me. Hopefully, I'm not playing it completely. If I'm playing it like her, that's really creepy. I mean, I might try, but hopefully there's a little bit of me in there, a little bit.
So I stand corrected, accept my apologies, Chris. Bob, your hand is up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to argue with Chris because he knows this piano stuff much more than I do, but
right.
She might not have the same chords or notes, but the Paprika Plains feel runs throughout this one, as well as the Sue and the Holy River on the following disc is very, very similar. A lot of the same vibe runs through these two tracks.
It's better in my mind. I think Sue and the Holy River is fantastic.
And I didn't want to jump ahead.
No, it's all right. I'm glad you did. I got warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, but I mean, before the discussion, I said, okay, I'm going to listen to all this and sit down with a pad and paper and take notes. And I said, oh, Sue and the Holy River is a lot like Save Magic, which are both a lot like Paprika Plains in terms of pace and feel and key and creativity. So that's what I got to say about that.
But what about the time period that this was recorded in? It was recorded in two different studios, right? I mean, and then one piano is a different tuning than the other piano. But to me, it sounds like she's first of all, she's a much better piano player than she's given credit for. I mean, she does some natural things, I think, the way that she approaches playing. I mean, certainly not an educated pianist, somebody that, studied the, classical music and everything, right? But how many sessions did this come from? Do you remember, Bob?
Well, according to the liner notes in the book, Save Magic was A&M Studios in Hollywood, of course, in January 9th, 1977.
It's only one night. It's only one. That's one piece of tape.
Yeah.
That one piece, but I mean the final version of Paprika Plains was actually.
I thought it was 4 pieces that actually created Paprika Plains.
Yeah, but one of those pianos was completely out of tune. I mean,
right. I remember
problems.
Yeah, that's what Mingus loved about her.
Gave us Mingus. Yeah,
Miles would have loved it. Yeah. But I mean, to me, that just tells me that, when she sits down at the piano like that and tape is rolling, I mean, and ideas are flowing, with a razor blade and, you can just take out the pieces that you want. I mean, that's what they did at that time. They didn't have Pro Tools during that time. I mean, now it's so much easier. When I cut Jack Nielsen's record and I got this guy to play piano, David Torkanowski, who's a brilliant pianist, but he played these solos, and I liked the beginning of this one and hated the ending and whatever, and so I ended up just grabbing pieces and put together my own solo from his brilliant playing.
That's how Joni did Wayne Shorter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on Save Magic?
Let's save it.
Let's save it. All right, Otis and Marlena, we have an early take. She adds some jazzy background vocals. What did you guys think of this version?
Liked it.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say. I thought it was cool to hear. All right. Any other thoughts on Otis? Well, Muslims stick up Washington. Yeah. Anyhow.
I loved it. I love playing this song.
Well, we are now moving on to 1978. Don Juan has been released. Joni has been called by Charles Mingus to do his final project before he passes away. He originally wanted to do, was it 4 quartets?
Quartets.
Yep. And then he sent her instrumentals Mingus 1 through 6. Am I correct in remembering that?
Yep.
Okay, see, I know a little bit, you guys. Not too much, just a little. So these are early versions of the Mingus sessions. We have Sweet Sucker Dance, vocals and drums version, a Chair in the Sky early alternate version, and then a Sweet Sucker Dance early alternate version. So what are you guys' thoughts on these 3?
So Chair in the Sky is a little bit faster. I think the vocals much more playful than what she finally settled on. Those are my notes for that.
Right. Chris?
I think, just a quickie note, I think her voice is gorgeous on all of these. I think she is singing about as good as she would ever sing in her life. I think she's amazing on these.
It's so interesting because I just feel like 78, 79 is just a really peak in Joni's, vocal performances. And it's interesting that Wild Things Run Fast is the next thing she did. Yeah. He came, she smiled. Like, you know what? Joni.
Sorry.
Bob.
Well, I mean, with Mingus, we probably said this with the Mingus discussion, but she lost her audience. She lost it.
Right.
She didn't pick up any jazz fans. She lost her, pop, rock and roll, whatever fans she had, lost it, and so she had to regain momentum and try to pick up a pop crowd again. So that's where Wild Things comes in, but that's a whole different discussion. But to second what Chris says, her singing on Mingus is the best singing she ever did in her career. Hands down, no discussion, kablam. That's, in my opinion, that's right.
Now, there's something Joni did in her pre-YouTube. I didn't see any earlier Joni live, but I'd see her in the 90s, and she did something live, especially in the 80s, that I heard her do the first time in this one, is where she'll be like, time, like she'll end a word. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Let me think of a song.
There's probably a linguistic term for what you just described, and I don't know the word.
Is it the Herbie Hancock sessions or something?
No, but she would do it more in the 80s and that. I'll think about it while you guys are talking, then give you some examples. But she did a lot on that Refuge of the Road 82 live video. Anyway, I don't want to go off the sidetrack. I'm going to send you guys some examples of what I'm talking about. But this thing she did, I noticed she started doing it on this set. Okay. We are now live at the Bread and Roses Festival. It's September 1978. Herbie Hancock on the piano. We did have this on bootleg because I have a bootleg CD of it. Yeah. These are the things. We have Dry Cleaner from Des Moines, which she does as an acapella. I love how she'll do a line and the audience actually laughs. Like when she's talking about put a quarter in a John, they're like, I'm like, woo.
They were listening.
Oh wait, there's one more verse. I got one more verse.
Yeah, I got one more verse. They were listening or fucked up or both. All right. A Chair in the Sky. So she's telling the story behind the song. Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. The story we heard before, how she has Lester, then Charlie, then Joni. And then Wolf That Lives in Lindsay. What do you guys think of Bread and Roses Festival? Chris, start it off.
This is incredible. The way that she and Herbie are interacting with each other is so respectful and so creative and so magnificent. It is They are all the way together on this. The audience, they witnessed something of glory that day. It was fantastic. Just fantastic.
I agree.
They simulcast that live. I listened to that broadcast in the afternoon, and I was blown away by it. Blown away.
All right.
I love the story she tells about the wolf that lives in Lindsay, about getting the tape and all that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm not sure I believe it, but it's a good story.
It is a great story.
And she told the same story when we went to the Washington, right?
Oh yeah, she did.
When we all howled at the moon, howled at the stars. All right. Any other? Oh, Sue, your hand is up. Take it away.
I just wanted to mention the a cappella dry cleaner from Des Moines because I heard two really fantastic singers sing dry cleaner from Des Moines at our tour that we did with the Good Souls. And I'm telling you, watching somebody sing that and nail it is just so fantastic. And, Joni, I mean, she's nailed it many times, I'm sure, but it's just so interesting to hear it a cappella too, because it's just so complicated, I could see fucking up at any point, and these singers were like, they nailed it. It was just so cool.
And Joni's pitch is perfect.
Unbelievable.
Perfect.
And the other thing I wanted to say was that my favorite song off of Mingus is Sweet Sucker Dance. It's just so gorgeous, and her voice is, and it's like really, sultry. I just love it. It's one of my favorite songs of hers. I listen to it a lot. It just makes me happy.
I love it. Further thoughts? All right, continuing the journey. I gotta put the glasses on because that text is small on the box. All right. We have some more Mingus early alternate versions from 78 and 79. Now, didn't Joni say in the box set that Mingus didn't like the album? Even Mingus didn't like the fucking album, but we love it. A good suit and a good haircut. God Must Be a Boogeyman. Solo for Old Fat Girl's Soul and the Dry Cleaner from Des Moines. And then Sue in the Holy River. So what do you guys think of this bunch here? Bob, start it off.
So this was the section of this set when I was listening to these CDs. When these songs came on, I'm like, holy crap. This is the heart of what this collection is all about. I mean, these are not even alternate versions of songs we know. This is brand new stuff that never saw the light of day. And here we have it right now. I think I backtracked 4 or 5 tracks to hear it again and again and again, because these were not songs that had been released for whatever reason. And of course, a good suit and a good haircut is just basically Mingus speaking, Joni scatting, there's bass and there's sax. So I understand how it didn't make the record, but to have it, to listen to it, was just a revelation, and just so mind blowing to me to hear these songs that I had no previous hearing of.
Do you think any of this stuff were some of the melodies that he wrote that did not end up as final songs, or do you think they were improvs? Any thoughts on that? Who knows, right? I guess we'll find out when she releases Joni's Jazz, which is apparently down the pipeline according to some insiders. So we'll see.
If that includes,
she says it in the liner notes.
If it's going to include maybe some of the alternate bands she had put together, I'll bet it's going to be terrific. I mean, when she keeps hinting to, she's having cycled through a whole bunch of different, session players or artists who came in to work on those sessions.
I remember her saying in an interview that she felt there were some versions that were more meat and potatoes jazz. And those certainly aren't the versions here, because if anything, these are more obtuse than even the album versions, I felt like.
Yeah, but she might have meant that they were more in bebop, realm of where Mingus probably heard them in his mind's eye. I think that at the time this was all happening, the biggest criticism that that purists were offering on it was that Jaco, as great a bassist as he was still electric, and that it would not have. They couldn't see that suiting Charles, or they refused to believe that he would have been okay with that. Or that's how I remember the scuttlebutt that was surrounding that, and that probably broke Joni's heart when she realized she wasn't going to break through that kind of a wall. That was a rough one too.
Mm-hmm. All right, then we have our early take of Wolf That Lives in Lindsay. Any other?
Before you go on, I just wanted to say, I'm going to put it out there. If there's anybody that's listening or has access to Sibelius and feels like spending the time to chart out Sioux and the Holy River, please do so.
No pressure, right?
Calling Dave Blackburn.
Yeah, Dave.
Maybe.
Aw. All right. We are now. Oh, Jesus Christ. Now, we're. This is live at the Coalition
He's
Against.
on this record, too? Sorry.
It was 1979. Joni was recording Mingus, and she pulls out the good old big yellow taxi at the Coalition Against Nuclear Power. Mm-hmm. Boy, talk about sticking out like a sore thumb, though. I mean, I was just listening to this, and then that he's pushing on the land again and again and again, and the house again. I just never liked those extra verses. I'm like, all right. Anyway.
Well, consider the event.
Yeah, very nice that she did that at the event. Okay. Any other thoughts on Big Yellow Taxi 79?
She likes to do that version because she likes to imitate Dylan.
Right. I just can't picture Joni Mitchell with her
make fun of.
I can't picture Joni Mitchell with her 1979 perm holding an acoustic guitar playing Big Yellow Taxi. Those things don't go together in my mind. It doesn't work. With her pastel blue suit on, or whatever she was wearing at the time. But anyway, good cause. Interesting to have here. It says with Graham Nash. Oh, he did the introduction. Okay. Well, now we have some tour rehearsals. So this is getting ready for the Shadows and Light tour. Chris, did you have something before I move on?
No. But I do have to run because I have to take a phone call. I do want to say one thing though before I go. Coming up, you guys are going to talk about the Forest Hills show. It will always kill me that I never attended that, and it was so close.
No.
That show is absolutely fantastic. The solos are amazing. Brecker just completely kills it. Pat Metheny, everybody is fantastic on that particular night. Friends of mine and neighbors were waxing poetic about that show for years, and they're absolutely right about it.
And I want to say I saw the one in Columbia, Maryland right before that, and it was also a great show.
Shit.
I saw the tour at Tanglewood, and it was. But
so did I.
This performance,
hi, Chris.
Hey.
After all these years,
we were there. Our hearts beat together.
Somebody asked me once if you could go to any concert that ever existed. I'd say something off the Shadows and Light tour, or was it called the Shadows and Light tour at the time?
Probably, yeah.
No,
I don't know.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. They just named it that when they made the movie and the soundtrack album.
Okay.
But the Persuasions were like a local group, basically, in DC. You always saw the Persuasions around. So it was great to see them open for her. And
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stop the flow. I just had to go because I have to go call. Good night, everybody. I love you. It was good to see you.
We love you, Chris. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you for coming.
Love you too, buddy.
All right, so we have another version of Jericho. This one was closer to the Don Juan version than the Miles of Isles, wasn't it, from what I remember? And then it's so funny because, Help Me is her highest charting single. And we have a version here from 1979. I have nothing to say. Bob.
So yeah, Jericho was definitely supposed to be on this 79 tour. When she opened the tour in Oklahoma City, Jericho was the first tune she played. Didn't go over very well. I think they dropped it after that very first show. So you never hear it much after her first Oklahoma City performance of the song. It didn't make the record because she didn't do it in Santa Barbara. She didn't do it much anywhere. It just didn't work. And I don't think Help Me worked either.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
So, the band was good on a lot of stuff and not good on some of the older stuff. So these two songs, I think they're included because for those of us that have Shadows and Light, they're not on that record. Mm-hmm. And after hearing them, you realize why they're not.
Right.
And again, that's a tribute to Joni's ability to realize, okay, this is not working. We're going to drop it.
These versions are neither Shadows nor Light. All right. We are now moving on to the Forest Hills. We have Big Yellow Taxi, Just Like This Train, Frantic Kiss on Main Street at Coyote, Edith, Free Man in Paris, Pork Pie, Jocko Solo, and then Dry Cleaner. We heard all the stuff on Shadows and Light. What do you guys think of these versions compared to the previously released?
Yeah, I had the Forest Hills show on a bootleg, and despite what Chris says, it's a good show. It's fine. I had a bunch of 79 shows. They're all really similar. Having grown up with the 79, the original CD stuff and the DVD, which includes
and the VHS, don't forget.
VHS, yeah. Which includes Jocko's Third Stone from the Sun solo. So that was not new to me. He did it. They pretty much did the same show. They took it around the country and toured the same show. So, to me, a lot of that was superfluous.
I kind of agree, actually. I didn't get much out of it, except for the Jocko's.
Yeah. If you hadn't heard that, it was pretty cool. But he did that exact same solo every night, on all the shows.
And Bob,
who's solo?
Jocko's third. He did Hendrix's Third Stone from the Sun.
So okay, and so what about Pat's solo? I think that they've edited that one from a variety of solos too, because and the one from Forest Hills to me is nowhere near what ended up on Shadows and Light, which for me is the greatest solo that's ever been played. Period. The expressiveness in that recording is just incredible. But I don't hear it at the Forest Hills recording.
Yeah, it's almost one track. Amelia, Pat solo, Hajira. I think of it as one track.
Mm-hmm.
You can't separate those three tracks.
And we said that on the Shadows and Light podcast.
Yeah.
Now, Bob, I think you said this, but I zoned out for a second. Jocko solo was on the DVD and VHS, but not on the CD, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. All right. That's what I thought. All right. Well, we're getting into the last section of the album, which is essentially more from this tour. I guess it's cool to have alternate versions. This archives set was 6 discs. Were all the other ones 5 or 4? I can't remember.
I think 5.
5, and then this one had 6. So the last section here, we have a couple more things. We have Amelia, Pat solo, Hajira, Don Elias' solo, Dreamland, Black Crow, Furry, God Must Be a Boogeyman, Raised on Robbery, Shadows and Light. The thing that, now we do have The Last Time I Saw Richard, which we did not have. not officially released. You guys
Yeah.
probably had the bootleg. And then, of course, the Persuasions, Why Do Fools Fall in Love? What do you guys think about this section? Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, she always usually did Richard for the shows. This was an encore. She came out, she did Richard solo, then she got the Persuasions out to close the show out with Why Do Fools Fall in Love and Shadows and Light. She closed out the show. So Richard was last time I saw Richard was not uncommon, but I mean it's a wonderful tune. Good thing that's included here for people who didn't have all the bootlegs, and some of us did the crazy trading way back when.
When I saw her just before the Forest Hills show, she did Woodstock and then had the Persuasions out. So
okay,
she might have alternated those, or because I know she does it on the Philadelphia show that we have.
Did she play it on piano or on guitar?
Guitar.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I saw her in Red Rocks, and she ended with Woodstock.
Really?
She just.
Well, yeah, I think she always closed with the Woodstock. I mean, to correct myself, she always closed with Woodstock because it was just her with her electric guitar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So that's
playing on guitar, and then she actually walks off stage.
Yeah.
And plays for.
Because remember the DVD, like that, to me, I think that might be my favorite version of Woodstock. When she plays it and then it kind of fades off. It's kind of like the 70s ending. Like the 70s ended right there as Joni walks off the stage and Woodstock ends. You know what I mean? God, the world sucked since then, hasn't it? Jesus Christ, it's all been down fucking hill.
The last thing I did in 1979 was get married. It all went downhill from there.
It was all going down and not the good fucking kind, right? So anyway, we are Stardust. We are golden. All right. Well, we have a version of Woodstock here. Anything revelatory about it compared to what we've heard before? No.
I mean, not my favorite. I have an incredible bootleg of her Five Finger Lakes Canandaigua show that she did, and she does this Woodstock version, and I swear to God, it's like 8 minutes long. At the end of it, she just riffs and riffs and riffs.
Oh yeah,
and the audience is cheering and cheering and cheering, and
I'd love to hear that.
she keeps riffing, and it just really.
That's on guitar?
Yeah.
Spin it for us right now, Bob.
The audience just keeps cheering her on, and she keeps riffing and going on, and I'm like, it gives me chills to hear it.
Bob, is it in your vault, or can you email it to our group?
I've got it, but I could send an MP3 of it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Wonderful. I'd love to hear that. And that Canandaigua is in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Stu, let's just go there and be like, this is the stage where Joni walked off and played Woodstock for 8 minutes.
Some of those recordings, Bob, with the new AI technology that they're using for audio, you may be able to resuscitate some of those recordings. And I'm thinking about what Dave Blackburn could do with the stuff like he's been doing with the 2-track masters. Because it's just kind of incredible how you can enhance the quality of a recording from basically nothing. And a lot of those things that we used to geek out over, get a cassette of some obscure show, and you can sort of hear that there's some brilliance going on, but the audio is so bad. But hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, when I got the Gandalf demos, I sent it immediately to Dave to let him remaster it, and he did a brilliant job of doing that. Maybe that's our next discussion.
Wow, what to send through the AI thing? Is Dave using any sort of AI technology in his studio?
It's a question for Dave.
I don't think so, but I'm impressed with some of the stuff that I've heard, and of course I've been fighting. It's a love-hate relationship with technology.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have reached the end of the 70s. Once again, we've been through Joni's 70s twice together now. This is our second trip through the 70s with Joni. We're about to have feathered hair and a pinball machine right around the corner. But before that, we have one final track. live at the Greek Theater, September 13th, 1979. A final version of Chair in the Sky. Any thoughts on this, you guys? All right. Well, that's the end of the podcast. No, good night, everybody. No,
Let me just add, if you've not heard the Road to Joni podcast or even Big Yellow podcast, Sue is on Big Yellow podcast. I've since picked up listening to that. She usually puts out one 20 to 30-minute episode a week. She interviews some pretty cool people. That's a wonderful podcast. But the Road to Joni podcast,
there's some good stuff there.
Really great stuff. I mean, and I a message to Carmel, and I said, Carmel, I understand you have really good musicians who have Road to Joni, but there's an infinite number of people who are not musicians that have Road to Joni that would be really good guests on this podcast. Keep it going. Well, she basically said, fuck off. But
well, I invited her to the Legends of the JMDL show, and she didn't show up. Even though her producer.
Allison showed up to our Buffalo show.
Yeah.
The girl who does the Big Yellow podcast.
She's great. She's cool. So that's a good. Those are great podcasts. If you're a Stevie Wonder fan, which I am, The Wonder of Stevie. It's a 5-podcast set, which covers his 1970 to 1975 era. Those 5 records is magnificent. Barack Obama produces and contributes. And I mean, I had the towels because I was crying. I'm crying. I've always cried at Road to Joni, Sue. I mean, I cried like a baby to hear these musicians talking about how they discovered Joni and their journey and what she means to them. And you just don't realize. I said this on I forget where I said it, but every single musician who's recording today, I don't care who it is, they know Joni, they love Joni, they appreciate Joni, and they realize what she's given to the musical community that we're all a part of.
Yeah.
You know?
So I was watching the Fire Aid, and Joni started singing, and I was like, I'm not going to cry. Then she goes, just say I love you right out loud, and then forget it.
There it goes.
I couldn't stop crying.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, and for me, it wasn't even watching Joni. It was watching the folks in the audience respond to what Joni was singing and realize, oh my God, we're watching Joni Mitchell sing both sides now, and they're hugging, and they're high-fiving, and they're lighting their phones up, whatever, and they realize this is a very special moment.
It is, and that's what it was like at the Hollywood Bowl too. Both nights, it was just so incredibly great. I mean, she would sing, and I would weep. She started singing His Year the first night, and I'm telling you, man, Paz had to hold me up. I was crying so. I
was grabbing onto her for dear life.
It was amazing. Oh my God.
So I would give anything to see video of Bill Maher singing along with both sides now at Clive Davis's party, which I understand he sang the whole song along with her.
That guy.
Did y'all read about that?
No.
And actually, I saw a picture of the painting she gave to Clive too. So yeah, but it's everybody. I mean, everybody. Anybody who's anybody in the artistic world, appreciates Joni for the brilliant person that she is. Amazing. Great job, Joan.
Great job, Joni. Well,
Hey,
I wonder if anybody tried to get Bill Maher to shut up. So
That would be a hard task, man.
we usually end these podcasts by ranking an album, but I don't think we can do it with the archive sets because it's just, it's a league of their own. They're just here as historical documents, so we're just gonna say we're glad we have them. Correct?
I agree.
Yeah.
amen.
Amen. Coming around the corner, we have the version of Smokin' where she played vibrator instead of a cigarette machine.
Who knows what's next?
We have the version of Dancing Clown with Milli Vanilli instead of Tom Petty and Billy Idol.
Jeez.
Well, I mean, we can talk about that a little bit. What are our guesses of what's going to be on?
Yeah, let's do a little
on
prediction.
The next set. I mean, her '83 tour was her biggest tour ever, starting in Japan and Australia, and she basically went all over Europe, all over the United States, everywhere.
I saw it in Baton Rouge.
Yeah. I mean, she played literally everywhere, and she did a tour rehearsal at A&M Studios with this band. The audio's great. I've got a couple of those songs, not all of them. That might be on the box set.
Well, here's my question. In the beginning of the archive, somebody said that there's going to be 5. So if this is the last one, does it span from Wild Things to Shine or Wild Things to Taming the Tiger? Because they're different labels. So this is where we start getting into different record labels. What do you guys predict?
Well, I would be really sad if that was true, because I really want to hear the 90s, the outtakes from the 90s. Those albums like Night Ride Home.
Or demos for Dog Eat Dog.
There's got to be more than just one. I mean, Turbulent Indigo.
Yeah, I mean, I want to hear a cleaned up version of the Gene Autry concert that was done in L.A. I think it was like 93.
One of my faves.
Yeah, what a great show that was.
I mean, I would hope there's enough '80s stuff to make a CD collection of. I mean, there was some interview show she did where she does unplugged versions of Dog Eat Dog songs, which I think are magnificent.
Right.
And show off how good those songs really were.
Absolutely.
Without all the Tom Dolby fuckery. And, '83 tour, for what it was great. I mean, what she did with A Case of You, Playing Like a Falling Star, that whole thing. I think there's some gems to be found there.
There might be a version of Good Friends with Kenny Loggins instead of Michael McDowell.
I would like to hear, I know that there's a acoustic piano, just a piano version of Impossible Dreamer.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Remember who played that on the podcast? Oh, gosh. She lives in Florida. But anyway, she did a lovely version.
Oh, and Annette.
Yeah, Annette.
Yeah.
Yep. She did those Amnesty International, the acoustic version of Number One, right?
And
and Great Stimulants.
Great Stimulants. That's an excellent video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We shall see.
Yeah, we shall see, and I have a feeling we shall all meet again in the future.
Shocking.
Well, I said I'm going to wait till tomorrow to upload this, but it's earlier than I expected, and I'm just going to this is going to go right online tonight. You guys, the world, there's a lot of negativity and a lot of fear out there, but I just want to thank you for sharing your hearts and your opinions and your music. I hope I'm never too abrasive or sassy. I don't mean to be. It's all with love. So
you're perfect, Jeremy.
Oh, thank you. I love you all, and
I love you too.
I will see you in the 1980s when wild things start to run fast again. Bye. Love you guys.
Ciao, baby.